Volunteers contribute to our mission in so many different ways. If you have been to our office recently, you may recognize Maureen Brown. When clients come to the Advocates, it's essential that they're greeted warmly and professionally and are assured that they've come to the right place. She is often the first point of contact our clients have when arriving at our office. She makes them feel safe and understood as they start their journey. No one understands the importance of the first step better than Maureen.
You've got to do your first part, and people have to come in and they have to start the paperwork process, which in turn starts that, and then they can get a hold of an attorney, and then the attorney can help them through the whole system.
Our clients have often had long, hazardous journeys to get to us, and Maureen always welcomes them with empathy and patience.
I really think it's important that I be, first off, empathetic. So I think you got to remember people are coming in and you don't know what they've been through and you don't know what happened, so you've got to be understanding.
Maureen has also played an important role in helping us to engage our community, whether it is from the front desk or assisting with envelope stuffing and mailings to get the word out about upcoming events. Maureen is always willing to jump in where needed. For over 40 years, the Advocates has continued to be one of the leading voices in championing human rights. During this time, not surprisingly, we've accumulated an overwhelming collection of files, many of which have not been documented digitally. These files reflect 4 decades of collaboration and advocacy on human rights issues around the world. One of our volunteers, Whitney Tuttle Preuss, has been pivotal in tackling this massive project, and he has helped catalog a substantial amount of material that contains the history of the Advocates. Whitney's work has helped preserve and memorialize not only the Advocates' work, but also the efforts of our partners in other countries. This archive project has not been without its emotional toll, as many of the stories Whitney has cataloged document the struggle and persecution many minority and indigenous groups have faced and continue to face around the globe.
In a lot of cases, people's names and their stories being written down in those documents may be the last evidence that there is that they were there, that their stories happened, the things that were done to them happened, or the things that they did. In the case of, say, the organizations on the ground, the indigenous organizations to the country that fought for their own rights and suffered tremendously for them, or for the international organizations that fought alongside them and often suffered alongside them as well. Mm-hmm. It's disheartening at times, but it's also inspiring because I've learned an awful lot, and it gives me a whole lot of examples to work off of, to be inspired by, to remind me of that all of it is both worth doing and can lead to a good outcome at the end of it.
From our own work to the work of other organizations and defenders around the world, the Advocates Archive Project shows the interconnectedness and intersectionality of human rights work everywhere. We recognize Zehra Khan for her varied contributions to the Advocates. Zehra began volunteering with the Watch Court Monitoring Project soon after it became part of the Advocates in June 2019.
I started actually volunteering during COVID. So I saw the courts as they were under transition. And from there, I had an opportunity to observe courts in person. So seeing the difference between virtual court versus in person, how that affects hearings.
Without monitoring and accountability, we don't know whether our systems are failing us or if they are upholding human rights principles. And when we witness that systems here and in other parts of the world fall short, the Advocates can amplify voices for change. Zehra's contributions have helped shine a light on our local systems, while also helping make sure that the voices of our partners, on-the-ground activists, and organizers are heard. For example, Zehra helped support interviews for a report to the United Nations on migrant women in the UK.
People who are doing work on the ground, for example, in the UK, felt like their voice was actually being heard for the first time through this process. And they were excited to know that these recommendations were going to be brought to a platform that would push for change.
The Advocates works with partner organizations and with individuals who have fled their countries to provide information to the United Nations. The UN uses this information to publicly condemn bad human rights practices and make recommendations to bring laws and practices into compliance with human rights law. Our partners have successfully used those recommendations to change laws and policies, improve human rights conditions, and make people's lives better. For individuals who have fled persecution and systemic human rights violations, collaborating with the advocates represents the possibility of continuing to transform systems in their country of origin and giving voice to the issues when those in their country have been silenced. This year, volunteer Reina Blandon Lagos has helped with these efforts by contributing to a report submitted to the United Nations addressing the Nicaraguan government's actions to restrict civic space and its actions to surveil, control, and repress the freedom of opinion and expression. As we work in the U.S. for federal immigration policy grounded in respect for human rights, Reina has provided crucial testimony highlighting the importance of asylum and helping us put a face to the claim that the right to asylum saves lives and families every day.
Pues los proyectos se han hecho con el fin de que esto llegue al Congreso, llegue a las personas correctas, a las personas que tienen que ver con el asilo, la necesidad que está ahí latente todos los días, viendo que están en peligro, personas que no pueden trabajar, personas que no se sienten seguras en este país, viendo que salieron de su país porque estaban en peligro y vienen a este país y siguen teniendo miedo, siguen bajo la sombra.
Reina reminds us of the importance of client-centered perspectives in our work, and that our work comes from a place of dignity and empowerment.
Porque lo hacemos de una manera muy segura, de una manera muy con todo el amor del mundo, con todo nuestro corazón en el momento que estamos haciendo el trabajo. Y es muy bonito, se siente muy bonito saber que uno está haciendo algo bueno.
Volunteers like Reina help keep the advocates focused on our mission of grounding policy work in real-life experiences, bridging the gap between advocacy and action, and of engaging everyone in the human rights movement.
Lo que haría, yo insto y invito a las personas que quieran convertirse en una persona voluntaria que lo hagan, porque es bonito sentirse que uno está haciendo algo bueno por alguien.
The Advocates believes in and fights for immigration systems guided by international human rights standards and dedicated to the fair and humane treatment of all. Goodwin Procter LLP, this year's recipient of our law firm Pro Bono Award, has overwhelmed us with their contributions to our work. More than 300 volunteers around the world and from different practice areas contributed thousands of hours to prepare more than 120 country condition packets on 48 countries that can be used by pro se asylum seekers and volunteer attorneys. These packets provide resources to respond to increased needs from asylum seekers and new arrivals, and allow them to put their best foot forward when it comes to representing themselves in immigration court.
Well, I think the driving force of working on something like this is knowing that an individual will have this in hand when they're facing a very strict and rigorous court to help them change their lives. So it's a huge impact, even if you impact one individual.
Goodwin shows that regardless of where you're located, we can all make an impact when it comes to protecting human rights.
Even though I'm not directly interacting with clients in this particular project, it just helps create the motivation and the sort of the backdrop and the context of what you're doing. So you know individuals who have needed help before, so you can relate that to whatever you're doing, really.
Bill Hitler has been a longtime participant in the Advocates' work to protect and uphold the rights of migrants and refugees. For years, Bill has represented a variety of pro bono clients, including unaccompanied children and people in immigration court.
I began working with teams of people at our firm on asylum cases on behalf of children who had come to the United States. Over time, because there were other cases needing help, I volunteered on adult cases, at least one involving an individual who was detained. I contribute effort or time or research with others in our firm and in other firms who are looking for advice on a particular way to make a point or to how to make the strongest case possible to the judge.
These efforts pay off in safety. Just this past March, Bill celebrated an asylum grant for a client from Honduras.
Our client had an asylum win, yes. We represented a transgender woman from Honduras, and she had been here for 5 years and had her individual hearing in front of the immigration court and presented her case along with an expert and others who supported her at the hearing itself. And the judge determined that she had met the criteria for asylum.
Bill's tireless work also allows the advocates to support other pro bono attorneys as they represent their clients and to fight for a more just immigration system overall. And everyone can contribute to these efforts.
If I had the choice, what I would do is I would take this award and I would give a copy to everybody, because what I'm able to do, what I'm able to contribute, is really just part of a bigger collection of wonderful people, all of whom are just dedicated to really this wonderful mission.